It started as an ordinary office friendship, but sometimes ordinary things hide shadows darker than you could ever imagine. I have a confession that I can't confess to the one person I wish I could tell. So I'm going to share it with the internet instead. My confession is that I'm the reason my work bestie was fired and is now struggling. I'm a 35-year-old female, and I have to think about what I did almost every day. When I was a kid, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. My parents are immigrants, so my choices were doctor, lawyer, engineer, or dentist, but that wasn't ideal for me. In school, I studied science because I figured I'd just try to be a doctor because it sounded the most tolerable. When it came time to study for my medical school admission exams, I wasn't doing well on practice tests at all. So I decided to flip it up and try the LSATs instead. I did decently well and was accepted to a pretty prestigious law school. I wasn't sure being a lawyer was the right path for me, but my parents were ecstatic, so I ran with it. I got a job at a top 10 law firm in New York City right out of law school and worked there for a few years. I was absolutely miserable. My work started suffering because I was so unhappy. But one thing people in big law know is that it's really hard to get fired from a big firm. I knew I needed a change. So I consulted with a recruiter, and together we decided I could try positions in attorney development. Essentially, that meant I would oversee younger lawyers and staff them to cases for partners in the firm. This was a much better fit for me because I hated the actual legal work. I got a job at another top firm as an attorney coordinator. Almost immediately, I connected with a junior associate named Sarah. She was a rising star at the firm, worked tirelessly, and always said yes when I asked if I could staff her on a project. Sarah and I got close. We exchanged numbers, texted about people we both couldn't stand at work, complained about the partners, went out to lunch a couple of times a week, and ate our lunches together when we didn't go out. We were basically inseparable at work. But after a while, Sarah started to burn out. I knew it was only a matter of time with all the yeses she gave me whenever I tried to put her on a project. I warned her a few times to take it easy and say no to things from people who had less sway at work, but she didn't listen. She was ambitious and willing to sacrifice her personal life to get what she wanted professionally. As Sarah was burning out, she started saying no to the wrong people. It was beginning to get noticed. She spent more time at her desk, started eating alone more. She became reclusive at work. Although she never stopped texting me like normal, the silly comments about partners or coworkers still came in hot and kept me entertained. She hadn't lost her light completely. We didn't spend much time talking about her home life because honestly there wasn't much to it. Her family was on the opposite coast. She wasn't married, didn't have kids, and she wasn't even dating because of how much work she took on. The more I think of it, I can't pinpoint what she did with the little time she had outside of work. When I first started at this firm, Sarah was leveraged 125%. She was working as much as a junior associate is expected to, plus a quarter more than another associate. Most juniors only work about 80% of what they should, and they don't get in trouble. By the time Sarah was burned out, she was down to about 75%. On its own, not huge. But because we were friends, I would ask to staff her on a case. She would say yes and then back out at the last minute or not pull her weight. Partners complained, and I had to restaff almost every project she touched. It was taking a toll on me and on how I viewed her. Sarah is an amazing human, but she doesn't take criticism well. I never found a way to bring this up to her. One day, my boss, Lauren, called me to a meeting with a few managing partners. It was official, in the big glass conference room at the center of the office. I thought maybe I was being let go. Lauren asked if Sarah was okay. I said she was fine as far as I knew, but noted that her work had been suffering. Before I even processed it, I blurted out, "I think we should fire her. I don't even know where it came from." Lauren looked shocked. Big Law is notoriously hard to get fired from, yet my words set a chain in motion. Later, she told me that the partners had watched Sarah closely after my recommendation, and ultimately she was fired. No warning, no notice, just pack up your things and leave. I never told her I was the reason. I lied to her face. We went out for drinks that night. She cried, moaned, didn't understand how this had happened. I nodded, shocked and appalled, while knowing deep inside I was the trigger. I felt horrible. Part of me knew she'd be replaced quickly by someone hungrier, better, more compliant. But the other part mourned the loss of my work bestie, the one who made every day bearable. This was nearly 4 years ago. Sarah and I still talk almost daily. She's now Auntie Sarah to my child. We share laughs and vent about work, past and present, but she never fully recovered. She struggled to find another big law job and took a lower-paying position at a smaller firm. She now wrestles with her mortgage and financial strain because of the pay cut and prior commitments. I love Sarah, I truly do. I hate lying to her. But the darkest part? This. She will never know it was me. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I imagine her reading this confession somewhere far away, never guessing that her downfall started with the one person she trusted most. That thought, the invisible weight of my betrayal, will haunt me for the rest of my life. The truth starts before the vows, in the shadows of a naive teenage mind, unaware of the debt it would soon owe. This is my story about the price of stability and how easily it becomes a cage. I married a 40-year-old man when I was 19. We started dating when I was 17. Yeah, it was gross, but that's what happened. I wasn't swept off my feet by some grand romance. There was no whirlwind love story. The truth is, I married him for his money, and he married me because I was young and beautiful. That was the trade-off. Everyone knew it, even if they didn't say it outright. He had what I wanted, and I had what he wanted. I do have redeeming qualities, though, I know that. I'd like to think I'm kind, intelligent, and capable, but none of that mattered in the equation of our marriage. It wasn't my wit or my personality that sealed the deal. It was my body, my youth, my appearance. That was my currency, and I spent it willingly. I've been married to him for 20 years now. We have 4 children together. Our lives are comfortable, stable, predictable. We've grown to have things in common after all this time, and we do love each other in the way that 2 people who have built a life together eventually do. But if I could go back and slap some sense into my teenage self, I wouldn't hesitate for a second, and here's why. What nobody tells you, or rather what they do tell you but you don't listen because you're a dumbass teenager, is that when you marry for money, you owe him. Not just for the house, the cars, the vacations, or the security. You owe him for everything, every single day. It's not about sex, or at least not just about sex. It's deeper than that, more insidious. It's about power, control, and an unspoken imbalance that seeps into nearly every interaction, every conversation, every decision to be made. It doesn't matter that I've given him 4 children. It doesn't matter that I've managed our home, our lives, our day-to-day existence for 2 decades. It doesn't matter that I've been a wife, a mother, a caretaker, a confidant. At the end of the day, the fundamental structure of our marriage has never really changed. He's the provider. I'm the recipient. And no matter how much time has passed, I've never stopped owing him. He doesn't say it explicitly. He doesn't have to. But I feel it in every glance, every sigh, every decision that isn't fully mine to make. When you marry for money, the debt is everywhere. It's woven into the fabric of your life in ways that you never could have imagined when you were young and stupid and thought trading youth for wealth was a fair deal. It's in the way he pulls rank at the most random and unexpected times, like when I suggest repainting the kitchen and he scoffs, reminding me he paid for the house in the first place, as if that invalidates my opinion on what color I want to see every morning while making his breakfast. It's in the way he orders food at restaurants without asking what I want, assuming he knows better. Maybe he does after all these years, but that's not really the point. The point is that it was never about knowing or not knowing. It was about the underlying message that he is in charge. He makes the decisions. I simply exist in the space that he provides for us. It's in the way he dismisses my career aspirations, not with malice, but with something far worse, indifference. I went back to school after our youngest was born, thinking maybe I could carve out something of my own. He was supportive in the way rich men are when their wives pick up hobbies, detached, vaguely amused, never threatened. When I landed my first job in years, he smiled and said, "Oh, that's cute." It's in the way he reminds me without saying a word that I'll never have full autonomy. Not really. We have a joint bank account, but I don't have his level of access. We have a family business, but I'm not consulted on anything important. We have a home, but it's his house, not ours. This isn't a partnership. It never was. It was a contract, one that I signed without reading the fine print. The strangest thing about this life is just how lonely it can be. People assume that money erases hardship. Luxury dulls the sting of regret. But there's this special kind of isolation that comes with being married under these circumstances. The women in my social circle are just like me, wives of men who could afford them. They host charity luncheons, they compare designer bags, they take trips together. They understand me in a way that only other women in golden cages really can. And yet I can't confide in them. I can't say sometimes I feel like a kept pet. I can't say I wonder if he would still look at me the same way if I gained 30 pounds. I can't say I don't know if I ever truly loved him. Because these are things we don't say. Instead, we drink our wine. We smile. We tell each other how lucky we are. We compare notes on our children's schools, or the new trainers we've hired, or the latest vacation homes our husbands have bought us. We laugh too loudly at things that aren't funny, because if we don't, we might start crying, and no one wants to be the one who cracks first. I don't hate my life, that's the thing. I don't wake up every morning miserable. I have comfort in my life. I have the stability that I sought. I have children I love more than anything. But I also have regret. Not the sharp, gut-wrenching kind, but the slow, creeping kind, the kind that settles in over years, like a dull ache in the bones. I regret that I never got to fall in love the way young girls are supposed to. I regret that I never knew what it was like to build something with someone from the ground up, to share the struggle, to dream together, to fight over bills and make up over cheap takeout in a tiny apartment that belonged to both of us. I regret that I sold myself before I even knew who I was. Now my oldest daughter is 2 years younger than I was when I met my husband, and the thought of her being with a man twice her age makes my stomach churn. I look at her, so young, so full of life, and I can't imagine her making the same choice I did. I want to shake her. I want to warn her. I want to tell her, you don't just marry a man. You marry the imbalance. You marry the expectations. You marry that quiet debt that will never fully be repaid. But I don't say it, because I know when I was her age, no one could have told me in a way that would make me listen. And now, as I lie awake at night in the quiet of my well-furnished home, I feel the shadow of that choice lurking behind every luxury, every comfort, every laugh. It's a debt that never sleeps, a presence that follows you from the bedroom to the breakfast table, from birthday parties to family vacations. And the creepiest part? It will follow me and her forever. Sometimes the darkest secrets hide right under your nose, in the place you think is safest, your own home. You won't find what I'm about to share on the internet because I don't want it traced back to me or anyone I'm talking about. Trigger warning: this involves terrible things done to children. I will hold back some details, but I need to tell this story. I decided to share it here because not only am I a fan of this platform, but I'm also grappling with something, and I hope some listeners can help me figure out my next move. I'm a 33-year-old male. I have 3 younger sisters. Before I can remember, my mom and dad split up. At the time, it was just me and my little sister, who was 14 months younger than me. When I was about 10, my mom remarried. She had only known my stepdad for 6 months before they tied the knot. I had only met him a handful of times. At first, I liked him. He always brought my sister and me cookies or candy when he visited. My sister, I'll call her Heidi, liked him too. Pretty quickly after my mom and stepdad married, they had my sister Kelly, and a few years later, Christy. Things were good for a little while. My mom and stepdad bought a house. I got my own room, because I was the boy of the family. Heidi and Kelly shared a room, and baby Christy slept in my mom and stepdad's room. A few years after moving into the new house, things started to get weird. Heidi started acting differently. We weren't close, but I had known her whole life. She was 14 now. When I asked my mom, she said it was just hormones. But one day, I noticed a red mark on Heidi's arm peeking from under her long sleeves. I grabbed her arm and she winced. Lifting her sleeve, I realized she had been cutting herself. I told my mom, and she dismissed it, saying, "It's just for attention. Teen girls go through stuff like that. Just make sure she's not cutting the long way." I was shocked, but nothing came of it. A few months later, I woke in the night to the sound of Heidi throwing up. Then she ran to the bathroom again. I told her to stay away from me. I didn't want whatever she had. That should have stood out more, but it didn't. Fast forward a week or so, my mom was yelling through the house that Heidi had to get an abortion. They demanded she name the boy. That night, when the house was quiet, I asked Heidi. She burst into tears. "It's our stepdad, you idiot!" I saw red. How could I not have noticed? I'll fast forward to the aftermath. The creep stepdad had abused all my sisters, even the baby. At first, my mom didn't believe them, but I went to the cops with proof. He was prosecuted. He had also been cooking meth in our basement and selling to a local motorcycle gang. When I say unbelievable, I mean it. Truth here is far worse than fiction. He eventually got only 14 years in prison. That's not nearly enough. Evidence, photos, videos, everything proved his crimes. The DA prioritized the meth buyers over justice for the girls. He got out a few years back. He lives not far from the house where two of my sisters and my mom still live. I started taking revenge. At first, small things. Ordering pizzas to his house, putting his info on the Scientology website. Then I escalated. I took out credit cards in his name, shopped online, and sent items to random addresses so it couldn't be traced to me. I posted his info on 4chan, told the story, and let people run with it. I called the cops as a concerned neighbor. I called every job he got to warn them he was a child molester. But none of it felt enough. I want him gone completely. Lately, I've considered outing him to the motorcycle club. Back during his prosecution, he had information on their illegal dealings that could link him to them. I know they would care to know he betrayed them. I didn't post this anywhere public because I don't want armchair detectives figuring out who I am. But I'm sharing it here because I need perspective. I need to know how to feel like I've done enough to balance the scales of what he did to my family. Even as I write this, the shadow of him lingering nearby, in the town where my family lives, chills me. The thought that someone so evil walks freely, breathing the same air, while my sisters and I continue to live with the scars he left, it keeps me awake at night. The line between justice and vengeance blurs, and I'm trapped in it, haunted by what I did, what I might do, and what will never be enough.